Captain Marcus Chen had always prided himself on following protocols. 20 years in the Terran Space Navy had taught him that rules existed for good reasons, especially when dealing with first contact scenarios. But sometimes the universe had other plans. The distress signal had appeared on their sensors 3 hours ago, broadcasting on an unknown frequency from what appeared to be a derelict vessel drifting near the edge of the Kepler 442 system. The TSN Endeavour was returning from a routine patrol when they detected it, and maritime law was clear about rendering aid to vessels in distress regardless of their origin. "Sir, we're picking up life signs aboard that ship," reported Lieutenant Sarah Park from the sensor station. "Faint, but definitely there. The vessel appears to be of unknown design and construction." Marcus studied the readings on his command display. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the Endeavour, with elegant curves and what appeared to be crystalline structures integrated into its hull. It was unlike anything in the Terran database of known vessels or even theoretical alien designs. "Any response to our hails?" Marcus asked. "Negative, sir, but the distress beacon is definitely automated. It's been repeating the same pattern for what looks like several days based on the power degradation." Marcus made his decision quickly. "Prep a boarding party. Full environmental suits and universal translators. We go in assuming friendly contact but prepared for anything." The boarding shuttle approached the alien vessel with careful precision. As they drew closer, Marcus could see that parts of the hull showed battle damage, with sections that appeared to have been hit by energy weapons. Whatever had happened here, it hadn't been peaceful. The docking procedure proved surprisingly straightforward. The alien vessel's airlock seemed to follow similar engineering principles to human designs, though the controls were more elegant and seemed to respond to touch in ways that suggested advanced technology. As the boarding party stepped through the airlock, Marcus was struck by the ship's interior design. Everything seemed to flow together in organic curves with surfaces that glowed softly with their own inner light. The air was breathable according to their scanners, though they kept their environmental suits sealed as a precaution. "This way, sir," called Sergeant Williams, their team's scanner operator. "Life signs are coming from what appears to be the command section." They moved through corridors that seemed to pulse gently with bioluminescent patterns. The architecture suggested a species that valued beauty as much as function, with every surface seeming to have been crafted by artists rather than engineers. As they approached the command center, Marcus could hear sounds from within. Not mechanical sounds, but what seemed like voices speaking in a musical language that their translators were struggling to process. The universal translators were sophisticated devices, capable of learning and adapting to new languages in real time, but whatever was being spoken inside seemed to challenge even their advanced algorithms. Marcus signaled for his team to take positions around the entrance. The door itself was a work of art, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. When he placed his hand on what appeared to be a control surface, the door responded by flowing open like liquid metal. The command center beyond took his breath away. It was a vast circular chamber with a domed ceiling that showed a real-time display of the stars around them. Control surfaces grew from the floor like crystal trees, and the entire space hummed with barely contained energy. But what truly captured his attention was the figure at the center of the room. She was clearly not human, but beautiful in a way that transcended species. Tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to have a slight luminescent quality, she wore what appeared to be form-fitting armor that complemented rather than concealed her alien features. Her hair, if it could be called that, seemed to be made of something like spun starlight, flowing and shifting with her movements. Most striking were her eyes, large and expressive with irises that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. Right now, those eyes were wide with an expression that Marcus recognized despite the species barrier. Complete and utter shock. She had been bent over one of the control surfaces, apparently trying to repair something, when Marcus and his team entered. The tool in her hand, which looked like a crystalline wand, had frozen halfway to its target as she stared at the humans who had just appeared in her command center. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, nobody moved. The universal translators worked furiously in the background, processing the musical language they had been hearing and beginning to build a linguistic framework. Then the alien princess, for that was clearly what she was based on the elaborate nature of her clothing and the command authority evident in her bearing, spoke. The translators caught enough to render her words in English, though the musical quality of her voice came through even in translation. "You are not Zephyrian," she said, her voice carrying notes of confusion and wonder. "Your ships, your forms, everything about you is unknown to our databases. What manner of beings are you?" Marcus slowly reached up and disengaged his helmet's seals. The ship's atmosphere had tested clean, and this seemed like a moment that called for showing trust. As his face was revealed, her shock seemed to deepen. "I am Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran Space Navy," he said carefully, speaking slowly to give the translators time to work. "We received your distress signal and came to offer assistance." "We mean you no harm." "Terran," she repeated, the translator rendering the unfamiliar word in her musical language. "I have never heard this term. From what world do you come?" "Earth," Marcus replied. "Third planet from a yellow star we call Sol. We're relatively new to interstellar travel." The princess straightened, and Marcus could see her mind working rapidly behind those galaxy-colored eyes. When she spoke again, there was a new note in her voice, something that sounded like excitement mixed with disbelief. "A new spacefaring species," she breathed. "In all our history, all our records, we have never encountered a race that achieved interstellar flight without our knowledge." "The implications are staggering." She moved closer, studying Marcus and his team with obvious fascination. "Your physiology, your technology, even your approach to starship design, it's all completely unique. How is this possible?" Marcus found himself drawn into her obvious enthusiasm for discovery. Despite the language barrier and species differences, he recognized a kindred spirit, someone driven by curiosity and wonder at the universe's mysteries. "Perhaps," he suggested, "we could help each other. You're clearly in distress and we have resources that might be useful. In exchange, maybe you could help us understand this part of the galaxy. This is our first time this far from our home system." The princess paused and Marcus could see her weighing options. Then she smiled, an expression that was beautiful despite being utterly alien, and Marcus realized that this unexpected encounter was about to change both their species forever. Princess Lyrelai of the Asterian Empire had trained her entire life for diplomatic encounters. She knew the protocols for meeting with each of the 47 known spacefaring species, understood their customs, their technologies, their biological needs, but nothing in her extensive education had prepared her for the beings standing before her now. These Terrans defied everything she thought she knew about galactic civilization. They had achieved faster-than-light travel without any guidance from the established powers. Their technology, while clearly effective, followed completely different principles from anything in her databases. Most shocking of all, they seemed to have done it all independently. "Your offer of mutual aid is most welcome." "Captain Chen?" she said, noting how his name felt strange on her tongue even with the translator's help. "My ship, the Starweaver, was ambushed 3 days ago by Vorthak raiders while I was returning from a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim worlds." She gestured to the damaged control surfaces around them, where crystalline matrices flickered with unstable energy patterns. "They disabled our primary power grid and damaged our navigation systems before my escorts arrived and drove them off. We've been drifting here while my crew attempts repairs, but we lack several critical components." Marcus nodded, his expression serious. "What kind of components?" "Our technology might be different, but sometimes different perspectives can solve problems in unexpected ways." Lyrelai felt a flutter of something she had never experienced before, not just curiosity about their technology, but genuine excitement at the possibility that these unknown beings might actually be able to help where her own people's advanced science had failed. "The primary issue is our quantum resonance matrix," she explained, leading them to a damaged control station. "It regulates the flow between our biological ship systems and the mechanical ones. Without it, we cannot achieve proper environmental balance or engage our faster-than-light drives." She watched as the human captain examined the damaged system with obvious intelligence, even though he was clearly looking at technology far beyond anything his species had encountered. What impressed her most was that he didn't pretend to understand what he couldn't, nor did he dismiss it as impossible. "This is fascinating," Marcus said, running his scanner over the crystalline components. "It looks like you're using some kind of biomechanical hybrid technology. Our ships are purely mechanical, but we've been experimenting with biological components in our research facilities." "Your species develops biomechanical technology?" Lyrelai asked, unable to hide her surprise. That is considered one of the most advanced forms of engineering. Most species require thousands of years of technological development before they can successfully integrate living and mechanical systems. We're probably doing it differently than you, Marcus admitted, but our doctor back on the ship has been working on something that might be relevant. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez has been developing adaptive bio-neural interfaces for our computer systems. The theory is similar, even if the application is different. Lyrelai felt her shock deepening. Not only were these Terrans capable of independent technological development, but they were apparently developing advanced concepts that had taken her people millennia to master. I would very much like to speak with this Dr. Rodriguez. I'll have her brought over immediately, Marcus said, speaking into his communication device. In the meantime, maybe you could tell us more about this region of space. We're explorers and we're always interested in learning about new civilizations. As they waited for the doctor to arrive, Lyrelai found herself studying the human captain with growing fascination. His physical form was remarkably similar to her own species, though smaller and clearly adapted for a heavier gravity world. What intrigued her most was his manner, confident but not arrogant, curious but respectful. "Tell me about your species' history with space travel," she said, settling onto one of the biomechanical chairs that grew from the ship's living floor. "How long have your people been exploring the stars?" "Only about 50 years for interplanetary travel within our own system," Marcus replied, causing Lyrelai's eyes to widen even further. "And we achieved our first faster-than-light flight just 15 years ago. This mission is actually part of our systematic exploration of nearby star systems." 15 years, Lyrelai repeated, her voice barely a whisper. "Captain Chen, do you understand what you are telling me? Most species require centuries to develop reliable faster-than-light technology after their first attempts. The Zephyrians took nearly 400 years. Even my own people, with assistance from established civilizations, needed over 2 centuries of development. We've always been pretty good at building things," Marcus said with what Lyrelai was beginning to recognize as characteristic human understatement. "Though I suspect we've made a lot of mistakes that others learned to avoid." Before Lyrelai could respond, the chamber's entrance flowed open again, and another human entered. This one was smaller than Captain Chen, with shorter dark hair and equipment that looked more specialized for scientific work. "Dr. Rodriguez," Marcus said, "I'd like you to meet Princess Lyrelai of the Asterian Empire. Princess, this is Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, our Chief Medical Officer and Biotechnology Researcher." Dr. Rodriguez approached with obvious excitement, her scanner already working as she examined the ship's biological components. "Captain, this is incredible. The integration between living and mechanical systems here is beyond anything we've theorized. The power distribution alone requires a level of biological engineering that would take us decades to achieve." "Actually," Lyrelai interjected, "that might not be true. Captain Chen mentioned that you've been developing bio-neural interfaces. Could you explain your approach?" For the next hour, Lyrelai listened with growing amazement as Dr. Rodriguez described human biotechnology research. Their methods were crude compared to Asterian techniques, but they showed an intuitive understanding of biological systems that was remarkable for such a young species. "The fascinating thing," Dr. Rodriguez continued, "is that we're not trying to make living components behave like machines. We're trying to make machines that can communicate with living components on their own terms. That is exactly the breakthrough that allowed my people to achieve stable biomechanical integration," Lyrelai said, her excitement evident, "but it took us 3,000 years of research to reach that understanding." "How did your species develop this insight so quickly?" "Honestly," Dr. Rodriguez said with a grin, "we've always been good at talking to things that don't want to talk back. Humans have been domesticating animals, cultivating plants, and working with biological systems for thousands of years. When we started working with advanced technology, it seemed natural to try treating it like a living partner rather than a tool." Lyrelai stood up abruptly, pacing to the center of the chamber as the implications of what she was hearing sank in. These humans weren't just another spacefaring species. They represented something unprecedented in galactic history, a race that had developed advanced concepts through completely independent paths. "Dr. Rodriguez," she said finally, "would you be willing to attempt a repair of our quantum resonance matrix using your bio-neural interface techniques? The risk is significant. If the attempt fails, it could damage both our ship and potentially yours." "What's the risk if we don't try?" Dr. Rodriguez asked practically. We drift here until either rescue arrives, which could take weeks, or until our life support fails, Lirelei admitted. Dr. Rodriguez looked at Captain Chen, who nodded. We didn't come all this way to play it safe, he said. Besides, this seems like the kind of thing that could benefit both our peoples in the long run. As they began preparations for the repair attempt, Lirelei realized that this encounter was going to be far more significant than a simple rescue mission. These humans represented something new in the galaxy, and she had the feeling that their arrival was going to change everything. The repair work proved more challenging than anyone had anticipated, but also more revealing. As Dr. Rodriguez worked with Princess Lirelei to understand the quantum resonance matrix, Marcus found himself learning about galactic civilization from a perspective no human had ever experienced. You must understand, Captain Chen, Lirelei explained as they waited for the bio-neural interface to establish connection with her ship's living systems. The Galactic Council has very strict protocols about contact with developing species. First contact is supposed to be carefully managed, with gradual introduction to galactic civilization over the course of several centuries. Why? Marcus asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Because rapid introduction to advanced technology and galactic politics has historically been catastrophic for developing civilizations, Lirelei replied sadly. Species have been destroyed by the shock of learning they were not alone, or by trying to advance too quickly technologically. The Council learned long ago that slow integration saves lives. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. But you're willing to risk breaking these protocols by helping us. You are not a developing species, Lirelei said with conviction. That is what makes this situation so unprecedented. You have achieved faster than light travel independently. You have developed biotechnology concepts that most species never discover. By every measure the Council uses, you should already be members of galactic civilization. Except nobody knew we existed. Marcus finished. Exactly, and that should be impossible. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her work, wiping sweat from her forehead. The bio-neural interface had been working for 2 hours, slowly establishing communication pathways between human technology and Asterian biomechanical systems. I'm getting some response from the quantum matrix, she reported. It's fascinating, Princess. Your ship's biological components are actually trying to heal themselves, but they need the mechanical systems to provide stability during the process. It's like they're designed to work together as a complete organism. That is precisely correct, Lirelei confirmed. Asterian ships are not built, they are grown. The mechanical components are added during the growth process, becoming part of the ship's essential biology. When damaged, the ship attempts to heal, but without proper technological support, the healing process can become unstable. Like trying to heal a broken bone without a cast, Dr. Rodriguez mused. The human bio-neural interface is providing the stability your ship needs to heal itself properly. Captain, this has incredible implications for our own ship design. As they worked, Lirelei's crew members began arriving at the command center. Marcus was struck by how different each Asterian was, despite being clearly the same species. Some had skin tones that shifted like aurora. Others had hair that seemed to be made of crystallized light. All shared the same elegant grace and galaxy-colored eyes, but each was unique in ways that human genetics couldn't account for. Princess, said one of them, a tall figure whose skin seemed to contain swirling nebulae. The quantum matrix is stabilizing. Biomechanical harmony is returning to normal parameters. Excellent work, Commander Stellaris, Lirelei replied. Please coordinate with Dr. Rodriguez to monitor the healing process. Marcus watched as human and Asterian crew members began working together, sharing data and observations despite the technological and linguistic barriers. What impressed him most was how naturally they collaborated, finding ways to communicate even when the universal translators struggled with technical terms. Captain, Dr. Rodriguez called out, you need to see this. The Asterian biomechanical systems aren't just healing, they're adapting. The quantum matrix is actually incorporating elements of our bio-neural interface design into its structure. Is that dangerous? Marcus asked. I don't think so, Dr. Rodriguez replied, consulting her readings. If anything, it's making the system more robust. The Asterian biological components are learning from our technology, while our systems are gaining stability from their quantum framework. Lirelei moved to examine the readings herself, her expression shifting from concern to amazement. This is extraordinary. Our ship is not just being repaired, it is being improved. The integration of your bio-neural concepts is actually enhancing our quantum resonance efficiency. How much enhancement are we talking about? Marcus asked. According to these readings, approximately 30% improvement in power efficiency and stability, Commander Stellaris reported. Such improvements typically require years of careful modification and testing. Your species continues to amaze me, Lyrelay said, turning to face Marcus directly. Not only do you achieve technological breakthroughs independently, but your technology actively improves our own, simply through contact. I have never encountered anything like this in all of galactic history. Maybe it's because we approach problems differently, Marcus suggested. We've had to solve everything from scratch, so we've probably developed some unusual solutions along the way. That may be the understatement of the millennium, Lyrelay replied. Captain Chen, I need to ask you something important. When you return to Earth, what will your people do with the knowledge of galactic civilization? Marcus considered the question carefully. Honestly, Princess, I don't know. That decision will be made by people far above my rank. But I can tell you what I hope we'll do. And what is that? I hope we'll approach it the same way we're approaching this situation. Carefully, respectfully, and with an eye toward mutual benefit. Humans have a saying that no one is so strong they don't need friends and no one is so weak they can't be helpful. Lyrelay smiled, an expression that was becoming familiar despite its alien beauty. That is a wise philosophy. I believe it may serve your species well in the galaxy. Princess, Dr. Rodriguez interrupted. The quantum matrix is fully stabilized. Actually, it's performing better than the original specifications suggest it should. I think we've accidentally created a new type of biomechanical hybrid technology. Accidentally created, Lyrelay repeated, shaking her head in what Marcus was beginning to recognize as fond exasperation. Captain Chen, your species has apparently made a significant technological breakthrough while simply trying to help strangers in distress. Dr. Rodriguez deserves the credit for the technical work, Marcus said, but it was your decision to help. Despite the risks and the unknown nature of our situation, Lyrelay pointed out, in galactic civilization, such decisions are usually made only after extensive consultation with councils and committees. The fact that you made it immediately, based solely on recognizing beings in distress, says something remarkable about human nature. As the Star Weaver systems came back online around them, Marcus found himself wondering about the implications of this encounter. They had made first contact with an alien civilization, shared technology, and apparently impressed a princess of an interstellar empire. But more than that, they had learned that humans might have something unique to offer the galaxy. Princess, he said finally, what happens now? Lyrelay looked at him with an expression that held both excitement and uncertainty. Now, Captain Chen, I believe we must prepare both our peoples for a future that neither of us could have imagined. Because what has happened here today is going to change the galaxy forever. The next few hours proved to be the most diplomatically complex of Marcus's career. With the Star Weaver fully operational again, Princess Lyrelay had used her ship's advanced communications to contact the Asterian Empire's diplomatic corps. The response had been immediate and, according to Lyrelay's expression as she received it, rather explosive. My father is requesting immediate communication with your commanding authority, Lyrelay informed Marcus, her tone carefully neutral in a way that suggested the original message had been far less diplomatic. Your father? Marcus asked. Emperor Valdris of the Asterian Empire, Lyrelay replied. He is not known for his patience, particularly when his daughter reports making unauthorized first contact with an unknown species that demonstrates impossible technological capabilities. Marcus winced. I should contact my superiors as well. This situation has probably gone beyond anything a ship captain is authorized to handle alone. The next hour was spent establishing communication links between the TSN Endeavor and both the Asterian Empire and Earth's Interstellar Command. Marcus found himself in the unique position of being the primary source of information for what was, rapidly becoming the most significant diplomatic event in human history. Captain Chen, came the voice of Admiral Sarah Chen, his sister and commanding officer of the First Exploration Fleet. Please confirm that you have made peaceful contact with an advanced alien civilization, shared technology with them, and apparently impressed their royal family. That's an accurate summary. Admiral, Marcus replied, noting that his sister was using his rank rather than his name. which meant this conversation was being recorded at the highest levels of government. And this Princess Lyrelai is requesting formal diplomatic contact between our civilizations? Yes, ma'am. More than that, she's warning us that our situation is apparently unprecedented in galactic civilization. According to her, the fact that we developed faster than light travel independently makes us what she calls an emergent civilization, rather than a developing one. What's the difference? Marcus glanced at Lyrelai, who nodded encouragingly. Developing civilizations are contacted by the Galactic Council and gradually introduced to galactic civilization over centuries. Emergent civilizations are those that achieve advanced technology independently and are considered immediate candidates for full membership in galactic society. And there's a Galactic Council, Admiral Chen said, her voice carrying the weight of someone whose worldview had just been fundamentally altered, consisting of 47 spacefaring species, apparently. Princess Lyrelai says Earth should have been contacted decades ago when we first achieved fusion power. But somehow we were missed in their surveillance. The silence that followed lasted long enough that Marcus began to worry the communication link had failed. Finally, Admiral Chen spoke again. Captain, I'm instructing you to accept any reasonable diplomatic proposals from Princess Lyrelai while we sort out the political implications on this end. Try not to accidentally commit Earth to any treaties or trade agreements. Understood, Admiral. As Marcus ended the communication with Earth, Lyrelai was concluding her own conversation with the Asterian Empire. Her expression suggested that her father had been even less patient than Marcus's sister. My father is dispatching the 4th Imperial Fleet to this location, Lyrelai informed him. They should arrive within 2 days. He has also requested that the Galactic Council convene an emergency session to address the situation of an emergent civilization appearing without warning. Is your father angry? Marcus asked, noting the tension in Lyrelai's voice. My father is terrified, Lyrelai replied honestly. Captain Chen, you must understand that the last time an emergent civilization appeared without council oversight was over 3,000 years ago. That species, the Vorthak, became one of the most aggressive and militaristic forces in the galaxy. They are the ones who attacked my ship. Marcus felt a chill as the implication sank in. So the council is going to assume we're potentially hostile. Some will, Lyrelai confirmed. Others will argue for immediate integration. Still others will want to study you like specimens. The political situation will be complex and potentially dangerous. What do you recommend? I recommend that we spend the time before the fleets arrive preparing both our peoples for what is coming, Lyrelai said. I want to learn everything I can about human civilization, and I want to share everything I can about galactic civilization with you. That sounds reasonable. Where do we start? With the most important question, Lyrelai said seriously. Captain Chen, are humans a peaceful species? Marcus considered the question carefully. We can be. We've had wars, Princess, many of them, but we've also had periods of peace, cooperation, and remarkable progress. I'd say we're a species that's learned the value of peace but hasn't forgotten how to defend ourselves. And if the galaxy welcomed Earth into the greater community, would humans seek to expand aggressively or to coexist peacefully? I can only speak for myself and my crew, Marcus replied, but I believe most humans would choose coexistence. We're explorers, Princess. We want to see what's out there, to learn, to understand, but we also want to come home. Lyrelai nodded slowly. That matches what I have observed in our interactions. But I must warn you, Captain, that there are species in the galaxy who will not take humanity's word for peaceful intentions. They will want proof. What kind of proof? The Galactic Council has procedures for evaluating new species. They will examine your history, your technology, your social structures, everything that defines human civilization. If they determine that humanity poses a threat to galactic stability, they'll try to stop us from joining, Marcus finished. Or worse, Lyrelai said quietly. The Council has authorized extreme measures in the past when faced with potentially dangerous species. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The decisions made in the next few days could determine humanity's place in the galaxy, or whether humanity would have a place in the galaxy at all. Princess, he said finally, I need to ask you something important. Based on what you've learned about humans in our time together, what do you think our chances are? Lyrelai was quiet for a long moment, her galaxy-colored eyes studying him intently. Captain Chen, I believe your species represents something the galaxy has never seen before. You have achieved remarkable technological progress while maintaining individual freedom and creativity. You show compassion for strangers and willingness to take risks to help others. Most remarkably, your technology seems to enhance rather than replace biological systems. She paused, then continued with growing conviction. I believe humanity could be exactly what the galaxy needs. But convincing the Council of that will require more than just words. It will require demonstrating that human nature truly is as remarkable as I believe it to be. How do we do that? By being yourselves, Lyrelei said with a smile. By showing the galaxy the same qualities you showed when you risked your ship and crew to help strangers in distress. If humanity can do that, Captain Chen, then I believe the galaxy will welcome Earth with open arms. As Marcus looked around the beautiful alien command center, surrounded by technology beyond human understanding, but operating through principles his people had helped to enhance, he realized that the greatest adventure in human history was just beginning. The Asterian 4th Imperial Fleet arrived exactly when Princess Lyrelei predicted, but their appearance was nothing like what Marcus had expected. Instead of the sleek organic curves of the Starweaver, these ships were massive geometric structures that seemed to bend light around themselves, creating rainbow patterns that made them difficult to look at directly. Dreadnoughts, Lyrelei explained as she and Marcus watched from the Starweaver's observation deck. The Empire's most powerful warships designed for both defense and diplomatic intimidation. My father is making a statement about how seriously he takes this situation. Are we in danger? Marcus asked, noting the way his crew on the Endeavor had moved to combat readiness despite his orders to remain peaceful. Not from the Imperial fleet, Lyrelei assured him, but these ships carry more than just Asterian crew. The Council has already begun arriving. The ship with the golden crystalline structures is a Zephyrian diplomatic vessel. The one that looks like it's made of living metal belongs to the Carathian Trade Federation. That massive sphere is actually a Venlari collective consciousness ship. Marcus stared at the assembled fleet in wonder. How many species are represented here? I count ships from at least 12 different civilizations, Lyrelei replied. This is probably the largest gathering of Council species in over a century. Captain Chen, the galaxy is taking humanity very seriously. As if summoned by their conversation, a communication signal arrived from the largest of the Asterian dreadnoughts. Emperor Valdris appeared on the main screen, and Marcus immediately understood where Lyrelei had inherited her commanding presence. The Emperor was tall even by Asterian standards, with silver hair that seemed to contain actual stars and eyes that held the depth of ancient wisdom. Daughter, Emperor Valdris said, his voice carrying notes that the universal translators rendered as both affection and exasperation. You have created quite a situation. Father, Lyrelei replied formally. I present Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran Space Navy, representative of the human species of Earth. Marcus stepped forward and offered what he hoped was an appropriate bow. Your Majesty, it's an honor to meet you. I want to thank you for allowing us to help your daughter, and to express humanity's hopes for peaceful relations with your empire. Emperor Valdris studied Marcus for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Captain Chen, in 30,000 years of Asterian history, no ship captain has ever created a diplomatic incident of this magnitude simply by rendering aid to a vessel in distress. My daughter tells me remarkable things about your species. We try to help when we can, Your Majesty, so I understand. Tell me, Captain, what does humanity want from the galaxy? Marcus had been thinking about this question since his conversation with Lyrelei. Honestly, Your Majesty, we want to learn. We want to understand our place in the universe and to share what we've discovered with others. We don't seek conquest or domination, just the chance to explore and grow alongside other civilizations. And if other civilizations are not interested in your friendship, then we'll respect their wishes and find others who are, Marcus replied. The universe is large enough for everyone. Emperor Valdris exchanged a glance with his daughter, and Marcus caught something that might have been approval in the Emperor's expression. Captain Chen, the Emperor said formally, the Galactic Council has requested that you and a representative delegation from your ship attend a preliminary evaluation session. This session will determine whether humanity will be considered for full diplomatic contact or whether alternative measures will be necessary. Alternative measures? Marcus asked, though Lyrelei's warning expression suggested he already knew the answer. The Council has procedures for dealing with species that are determined to be potential threats to galactic stability. Emperor Valdris replied diplomatically. I trust that will not be necessary in humanity's case. The evaluation session took place aboard the Venlari Collective Consciousness ship, which proved to be unlike anything Marcus could have imagined. The interior seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, with surfaces that shifted and flowed as thoughts moved through the ship's living consciousness. The Council representatives were equally diverse and impressive. The Zephyrian delegate was a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline form. The Carathian representative appeared to be made of living metal that constantly reconfigured itself. Most unsettling was the Vorthak observer, whose species Marcus now knew had been the last emergent civilization and had become the galaxy's primary threat. Species, human. The Venlari consciousness spoke through harmonic tones that bypassed the universal translators entirely, somehow communicating directly with their minds. Origin, planet-designated Earth Sol system. Technological advancement, faster than light travel achieved independently. Biotechnological integration, advanced despite recent development. Social structure, analysis required. Captain Chen, said the Zephyrian delegate, its crystalline form pulsing with energy. We have reviewed the data provided by Princess Lirelai regarding your species' first contact behavior. While impressive, a single incident is insufficient for evaluation. We require broader understanding of human civilization. What would you like to know? Marcus asked. Everything, replied the Carathian delegate, its metallic voice carrying undertones of skepticism. Your species' history of warfare. Your approach to resource distribution. Your treatment of less advanced species on your world. Your expansion plans now that you have achieved interstellar capability. Marcus took a breath, realizing that humanity's entire future might depend on his answers in the next few minutes. Our history includes warfare, he began honestly, but also peace. We've learned that cooperation achieves more than conflict. On Earth, we're working toward resource equity, though we haven't perfected it. We protect less advanced species rather than exploit them, and our expansion plans focus on exploration and settlement of uninhabited worlds, not conquest of inhabited ones. Prove it, demanded the Vorthak observer, its scarred form radiating hostility. Words are meaningless. Show us data. Show us evidence. Marcus looked at Princess Lirelai, who gave him an encouraging nod, then at Emperor Valdris, whose expression remained neutral but watchful. I can show you our ship's databases, Marcus said. Our historical records, our laws, our cultural productions, everything we've brought with us. But more than that, I can show you how we behave. We risked our ship to help strangers. We shared our technology freely. We chose cooperation over conflict when we could have chosen otherwise. One ship, the Carathian delegate observed. One crew. This does not represent an entire species. Actually, Princess Lirelai interjected, it might. Honored delegates, in all my study of species development, I have learned that the first representatives encountered in space typically exemplify their species' core values. Captain Chen and his crew were not specially selected for this mission. They are standard representatives of human space exploration. If that is true, the Venlari consciousness observed, then humanity presents a fascinating case study. A species that achieves advanced technology while maintaining individual creativity and moral flexibility. The session continued for hours, with Marcus answering questions about everything from human art to human agriculture, from their approach to education to their methods of conflict resolution. Throughout it all, he tried to present humanity honestly, acknowledging their flaws while emphasizing their potential. Finally, the delegates withdrew to deliberate, leaving Marcus alone with Princess Lirelai and Emperor Valdris. How do you think I did? Marcus asked. Better than I hoped, Emperor Valdris replied. You presented your species as neither perfect nor irredeemable, but as capable of growth. That is often the best outcome in these situations. What happens next? Now, Princess Lirelai said with a smile that was both excited and nervous. We find out whether the galaxy is ready for humanity. The council's deliberation lasted 18 hours, during which Marcus found himself learning more about galactic civilization than any human before him. Princess Lirelai and Emperor Valdris took turns explaining the complex political dynamics that would influence the decision about humanity's fate. The vote will not be unanimous, Emperor Valdris explained as they waited in the Starweaver's diplomatic quarters. The Carathian Trade Federation sees opportunity in human technological innovation, but fears economic disruption. The Zephyrians are fascinated by your biotechnological approach, but concerned about your rapid development. The Vorthak actively oppose any new species joining the Council, particularly one that achieved independence as they did. What about your people? Marcus asked. The Asterian Empire will vote for full diplomatic recognition, Lirelai said confidently, not just because of our personal experience with you, but because we believe humanity represents the kind of innovative thinking the galaxy needs. The galaxy needs? Marcus asked. Emperor Valdris exchanged a look with his daughter before responding. Captain Chen, there is something we have not yet told you about the current state of galactic civilization. For the past 1,000 years, technological and cultural progress has stagnated. The established species have become comfortable, even complacent. New discoveries are rare. Exploration beyond our borders has slowed to almost nothing. Many believe the galaxy is entering a period of decline, Lirelai added. Resources are becoming scarcer, conflicts more frequent, cooperation less common. The Vorthak raids have increased in recent decades, and our responses have become increasingly militaristic. You think humanity could change that? Marcus asked. I think humanity already has, Emperor Valdris replied. The bio-neural interface technology your Dr. Rodriguez developed with my daughter has already been transmitted to research stations throughout the Empire. Our scientists are calling it a breakthrough that could revolutionize biomechanical integration. And that was accomplished accidentally in a few hours by beings who had never seen our technology before. But more than technological innovation, Lirelai continued, humanity demonstrated something the galaxy had almost forgotten. The willingness to risk safety for strangers, to share knowledge freely, to approach problems with creativity rather than established procedure. These qualities could be exactly what galactic civilization needs to rediscover its vitality. Before Marcus could respond, a communication signal arrived from the council chamber. The Venlari collective consciousness spoke directly to their minds, bypassing language entirely. Decision reached. Attendance requested. Immediate. The council chamber aboard the Venlari ship had reconfigured itself into something resembling an ancient amphitheater, with each species delegation positioned according to complex diplomatic protocols that Marcus didn't pretend to understand. The Venlari consciousness manifested as a shimmering field of energy at the center, while each delegate maintained their species' preferred environmental conditions within individual atmospheric bubbles. Captain Marcus Chen of the species human, the Venlari consciousness began. The Council has reached its decision regarding humanity's status in galactic civilization. Marcus felt his heart rate increase as he stood to receive the verdict that would determine humanity's future among the stars. By a vote of 31, species in favor, 12 opposed, and 4 abstaining, the Galactic Council recognizes humanity as an emergent civilization qualified for immediate full membership in galactic society. The relief Marcus felt was immediately tempered by the Venlari consciousness continuing. However, this recognition comes with conditions. Humanity will be granted a probationary period of 10 standard years during which human expansion and development will be monitored by Council observers. During this period, Earth will be assigned a Council mentor species to guide humanity's integration into galactic civilization. Which species will serve as humanity's mentor? Marcus asked. Emperor Valdris stepped forward. The Asterian Empire has volunteered for this responsibility, with the Council's approval. Marcus couldn't hide his smile. I think humanity will be honored to learn from the Asterian Empire, Your Majesty. Actually, Princess Lirelai interjected with a grin that was becoming familiar. You'll be learning with us. The Council has approved a revolutionary exchange program. Human scientists and explorers will work directly with Asterian teams, while Asterian researchers will establish stations in the Sol system to study human approaches to technology and exploration. Furthermore, the Zephyrian delegate added, its crystalline form pulsing with excitement. The bio-neural interface technology developed through human-Asterian cooperation will be shared with all Council species. In exchange, humanity will receive access to the Galactic Knowledge Database and communication networks. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the implications. This is far more than we hoped for when we answered your distress signal. That distress signal, the Karathian delegate observed, was apparently the most fortuitous technical malfunction in galactic history. The potential for human innovation combined with established galactic knowledge could lead to unprecedented advancement. Even the Vorthak observer seemed less hostile than before. The Council has also voted to establish new exploration initiatives to map the galactic rim regions. Human crews will be invited to participate in these missions, bringing their independent perspective to challenges that have puzzled the galaxy for millennia. As the formal session concluded and delegates began preparing for departure, Marcus found himself alone with Princess Lirelei and Emperor Valdris on the Starweaver's observation deck. Watching the assembled fleet prepare to disperse across the galaxy, "Princess," he said finally, "I have to ask. When we first entered your ship, you seemed shocked by our appearance. Was it really just surprise at meeting an unknown species?" Lirelei laughed, a musical sound that the translators couldn't quite capture. "Actually, Captain, it was something much more specific. In Asterian culture, there are ancient legends about a species that would appear from the void, beings who would bring innovation and renewal to a stagnant galaxy. The legends describe them as having your physical characteristics and your approach to problem solving." "You're saying we match some kind of prophecy?" Marcus asked skeptically. "I'm saying," Lirelei replied with a smile, "that sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. Whether humanity fulfills any ancient legends or not, you've already begun to change the galaxy simply by being yourselves." Emperor Valdris nodded approvingly. "Captain Chen, when you return to Earth, you can tell your people that the galaxy welcomes humanity, not just as new members, but as partners in building a better future for all species." As Marcus prepared to return to the Endeavor for the journey home, he realized that Princess Lyrelei's shock at his unexpected entrance had been nothing compared to the shock that Earth was about to experience. Humanity had reached for the stars and found not just new worlds but an entire galaxy of civilizations ready to become their friends. The greatest adventure in human history was no longer just beginning. It had already begun to transform everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. And it had all started with a simple decision to help strangers in distress. "Princess," Marcus said as he prepared to leave, "thank you for giving humanity a chance." "Thank you, Captain Chen," Lirelei replied, "for reminding the galaxy what it means to hope." As the human ship prepared to carry news of galactic civilization back to Earth, and as Asterian vessels prepared to make their own journey to the Sol system, the galaxy itself seemed to shimmer with new possibilities. Humanity had entered unexpectedly, and nothing would ever be the same.